Hello, my name is Peyton, and I am the graduate assistant for the Study Abroad office. Let's walk through how to book an international flight. There are many things to look for when starting the search. Websites like Google Flights, Kayak, Expedia, etc. can help serve as a starting point. Today, I will be using Google Flights. Start by typing the name of the city you are currently in and the city you want to go to. I am in Indianapolis, and I need to fly to Helsinki, Finland. I can choose the airport if I know of a specific airport I need to go to and fly out of, but by just leaving the cities, I'm able to get more options. The next step is to make sure whether I am buying tickets for a one-way flight or a round trip. If you know the beginning and end date, it will most likely be easier to do a round trip instead of looking for two one-way tickets. I am also going alone, so I only need one ticket. I can choose what class I would like to be in as well. Google Flights gives me four options: economy, premium economy, business, and first class. What I choose will determine the quality of my seat and amenities during the flight. Economy will be the cheapest, while first class will be the most expensive. I want a cheaper ticket, so I will be choosing economy. The next step is to set the dates I am leaving and returning. Sometimes this can be difficult with different time zones as well as overnight flights. I need to be in Helsinki by Sunday, March 12th. So it may be better for me to set my departure date to March 11th because I might have to take an overnight flight. I know I am leaving on Sunday, March 19th, and it is not important if I get home on the 19th or the 20th, so I can insert that as my second date. Once I put my dates in, it should give me some options for flights. And I need to double check to make sure that the information I have is correct, that it inserted in correctly. So I make sure that it says, I change it back to March 11th instead of March 19th. So now that my information is correct, Indianapolis to Helsinki, March 11th to March 19th, I can start looking at the different flights that it is offering me. Google Flights automatically lists the flights that are best using what is the cheapest but also most convenient. It is helpful to look at these first, but they may not actually be the best option for you. So one of the first flights that comes up is 2:22 p.m. to 11:05 p.m. +1. The +1 means that it will be +1 day. So instead of arriving on March 11th, the day I leave, I will arrive on March 12th. This is why it was important for me to look for flights leaving the day before I left, because all of the flights show this +1, meaning I will arrive on March 12th for all of them. For a longer flight, as well as for most flights out of Indianapolis, there will be a layover. This means that there will be a stop in between Indianapolis and Helsinki, where I will need to switch to a different plane. With layovers, it can be tricky to know how much time is needed to make sure I am able to make the next flight. This 2:22 p.m. flight has a 1-hour layover. If I click here, I can view that it has a 1-hour layover in Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. For most layovers, it is best to have at least 3-hour layovers so that you have time to get through the airport and in case of any delays. It is also helpful to look up the airport. Some airports, like O'Hare in Chicago, are big and busy, so will take longer to get through the airport, unlike an airport the size of the Indianapolis International Airport. If you miss the second flight, you will have to contact the airline to try and reschedule a flight to your destination. If you book through the same airline, you may be able to get an itinerary, so if there is a delay, you will automatically be rebooked. No matter what, though, you may have to pay additional charges when rebooking a flight due to a missed layover. Dallas-Fort Worth is one of the largest airports in the world, so I will need much more than an hour layover between my first and second flights. So I know that this is not the right flight for me. One of our other flights is 5 p.m. to 1:50 p.m. plus 1. So yet again, this flight leaves on March 11th but arrives on March 12th. The first flight is from Indianapolis to JFK Airport in New York, and the second is from JFK to Helsinki Airport. There is a 3-hour and 36-minute layover between these flights. Even at a busier airport like JFK, this should be enough time to get to the next flight. However, I will keep looking just in case I find something better. Our third option in our list of best departing flights is from 5:45 to 6:25 p.m. plus 1. Looking at it, there are a few things that make this flight not a good option. First, there's only a 40-minute layover after the first flight. Though Charlotte Douglas International Airport is a smaller airport, it is best to not have only a 40-minute layover before an international flight. Our next flight has a 4-hour and 20-minute layover at Heathrow Airport in London, which would be enough time if I were able to make it on that flight. Another issue with this flight is the multiple layovers. It is best to go with a flight that has the least amount of layovers so there's less risk of missing flights as well as making coordination easier overall. If we look at the other flights, we have 11 hours and 30-minute layover. This is a large layover, so there's no worry about missing the next flight, but it could be difficult to determine what to do for 11 hours and 30 minutes. You could leave and do something else, but you would have to make sure to arrive back at the airport at least 3 hours before. Once again, we can look at the other flights like 6:14 to 3:15. And while this one has a 1-hour layover, 2 1-hour layovers, it also has 2 layovers. So we already have a better option than that. So based on what we are seeing, it seems like our best option is the 5 p.m. to 1:50 p.m. flight. There's a long enough layover to make it to the next flight. There's only one layover, and it is around the average price for flights to Helsinki. On this note, it is helpful to look at flights through an incognito browser so that an airline website is unable to track how often you are looking at a flight. Sometimes, if they track that you are frequently checking the price of flights to Helsinki, they may increase the price for you. Also, it can be helpful to find a flight, then check back in later to see if the flight has changed. Google Flights lists how much a flight would typically cost and if the prices are higher or lower than normal. This can be helpful in making sure you are not buying a ticket that is overpriced if possible. So I click and select flight on the departing flight I want, and it takes me to the next step of booking a returning flight. We are looking for pretty much the same criteria as before. I can look at these flights and eliminate them based on layover time, 12-minute and 34 layover, and a transfer between airports, a 14-minute layover, and that it would be overnight. Again, making it difficult to have 14 hours that you need to spend in the airport. I can look at the last one and see that there is a 2-hour and 40-minute layover in Dallas, but that might not be the best option for me. If I don't like any of these and I look at all of the rest of these, I can then click 43 more flights and Google will show me other flights that it was hiding for whatever reason they thought made it less good. We can look at the flights that Google has given us and decide that this 12:30 flight that has a 4-hour and 20-minute layover seems like our best option. On the right side, I can also see a list of features of each flight, the average legroom, entertainment, and the carbon emissions. So now I will select this as my return flight. Now that I have determined my flights, I can book with American Airlines. It's better to book through the airline itself instead of a third-party source to make sure that I am buying a ticket directly from the company, and I am therefore less likely to make mistakes or have something happen with my ticket. Now that I have made it to American Airlines website, they are giving me the option of which class I want to choose. The cheaper option is basic economy, but it has many restrictions that might be difficult for some people. I am unable to choose my seat without an additional fee. It can be helpful to have an assigned seat because you are less likely to be bumped if the flight was overbooked. I would also have to pay to check a bag. If you are traveling very lightly, you may be able to avoid bringing a large bag that has to be put under the plane. However, for the most part, you will be checking a bag and it could cost up to $100. Also, if I am not checking a bag and I am last to board, I might have a larger bag that I will need to put in the overhead compartments that would be difficult to fit after everyone else has placed their things up there. The choice of which is better depends on you as a traveler. I'm going to choose to upgrade to the main cabin. The next step requires me to add information like my name and contact info. If I have any promo codes, I can enter those here as well. Make sure to check the list of objects that you are not allowed to bring on flights before finalizing your booking. For the ticket I chose, I get to choose my seat. If I want, I can pay extra for certain types of seats with more legroom and other benefits, or I could stick with the seats with no added costs. What seat you choose is entirely up to your preference, but sometimes they will have a labeled exit row because you have to be able to perform certain duties when sitting there. Also, I have to choose seats for my departing and returning flights. Usually with layovers, I would have to choose seats for those, but since I am flying through American Airlines with some of my flights and Finnair with my other flights, American Airlines cannot book all of it. Now I'm finishing up, and the most important thing to do is make sure that all of my information is correct. Then I can put in my payment information, and now you have booked a flight. Now that you have a flight, you should consider booking trip insurance. This is optional, but strongly recommended. Trip insurance policies can reimburse you in the event that something goes wrong before or during your trip. Instead of reimbursing you for hospital fees or emergency transportation, trip insurance reimburses you for the things you bought but didn't use. Lost luggage, travel delays, and canceling plans due to illness or inclement weather are all things that trip insurance might cover. When researching your trip insurance options, it is recommended that you choose a comprehensive plan that will cover the widest variety of travel issues, and ideally a plan that includes cancel for any reason coverage. You can find more information at the Study Abroad website under Prepare for Your Departure and Travel Medical Insurance and Trip Insurance, or abroad.iupui.edu/departure/insurance.html. We have additional information about travel on our website, abroad.iupui.edu, under the Prepare for Your Departure tab, including information on visas, passports, banking, safety, flights, and travel insurance. Thank you for taking the time to listen and learn all about how to book an international flight. Have a great day.